Welcome to Step Up to the Sport, a conversation series bringing together the minds of women's baseball and women in baseball. I'm Kate Haines, the moderator of today's conversation and the archivist for the International Women's Baseball Center. Our host today will be IWBC Director, Sabre Vice President, and Kent State University at Stark Associate History Professor Leslie Heaphy. Our guest today is Bianca Smith, and we'll be discussing her coaching career, especially her time with the Boston Red Sox organization. Bianca finished her first season as a minor league coach with the FCL Red Sox in 2021. Prior to the Red Sox, she was an assistant athletic director and assistant baseball coach and hitting coordinator at Carroll University. Smith has also coached at Case Western Reserve University, where she earned her dual JD MBA, and the University of Dallas, as well as worked in baseball operations in the front offices of the Texas Rangers, the Cincinnati Reds, and MLB's Commissioner's Office. Smith graduated from Dartmouth College in 2012, where she played varsity softball and club baseball. So welcome, Leslie and Bianca. Good to have you guys. I'm going to turn it over to Leslie for our conversation today.
Thanks, Kate. Appreciate the introduction. And Bianca, we're so glad that you're here with us this evening, I guess it is, to chat some baseball. So thank you for taking the time to join us. And we're looking forward to having this conversation. And I got to say, just listening to Kate read the highlights of your resume, those of us who are a little older than you who thought that this could never happen are very jealous of it's so cool to watch. So it's pretty awesome to see. So I got to ask the logical first question, which is, so where and when did your interest in baseball develop and come from?
Yeah, very common question. Honestly, even my parents still ask that. I did not grow up in a baseball family. My mom was a diehard Yankees fan. I'm sorry, Red Sox fans. That's just, born in New Jersey. It was a given. So she introduced me to the sport, but she used to joke that I took it to a completely different level. Like, she didn't watch games on TV very often. I think one of the first times I remember having a professional game on was when the Yankees and the Mets played in the World Series. And our house was literally split. But other than that, like, my first professional game that I went to wasn't even until I was 9.
Wow.
And that's because the Yankees came to Texas to play the Rangers, and my dad had free tickets. So it wasn't like we were going out to games. We weren't watching them on TV. I just fell in love with it. And then I also have to give credit to the baseball movies that came out in the early 90s. So Rookie of the Year, Angels in the Outfield, Sandlot. I watched those, fell in love, loved the strategy. I think that's still my favorite part, is the strategy of the game. The fact that you don't have to be the fastest, you don't have to be the best, you don't even have to be the most athletic. If you understand the game, you could take advantage of your strengths and still be a good player. And that was also one of those, like, for me, it's one of those sports that understanding the strategy, even if you haven't played, you can still understand the game. And people say it's a thinking man's game, and that's really what intrigued me. Like, that's, as you said, with my resume and my background, like, in our family, we are educated and thinking family. Like, that's just what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do escape room for fun. So
did you play sports before you got to college? What was your sports connections?
Yeah, so we are a sports family. We might not be a baseball family, but we are a sports family. So me and my siblings and I, we all played multiple sports growing up. My primary sport was actually soccer for about 10 years. Right. But I also danced from the time I was like 4 to the time I was 17.
Wow.
I started playing softball when I was 13, played club baseball in college, and I was actually also a cheerleader all 4 years of college. And my last year of grad school, I decided to try it again. I was like, I have time. I'm a student. I can join the club cheer team. I even tried karate. Got pretty far, but then I had to choose between karate and dance. So I did dance. College, I actually also made the women's club ice hockey team.
Wow.
Never played before, but I could ice skate. So I did that for a little while before I joined the softball team. Also tried tennis. I mean, we're skiers. We're a very active family. And I think I have 4 younger siblings, and I am the least athletic of all four of them, and or all five of us. And that's saying something, considering, like I said, I grew up playing 4 or 5 sports.
Yeah, that's amazing. So before you ended up in the baseball world, of all of those different sports, did you have a favorite one, or are you just liked participating?
So even though I didn't play, baseball was still my favorite sport, no matter what. But as far as playing, I loved playing soccer. I still love playing soccer. I hate watching it though, which is sad because one of my brothers is actually a professional soccer player. And that's like the only time I could watch soccer is when he's playing.
Okay.
And he used to tease me because I would come to his games with a notebook or a book. And he knew, like, if he wasn't on the field, I was not watching the game at all. Like, I couldn't get into it, but I loved playing. Like I said, I fell in love with cheerleading.
Uh-huh.
Man, I wish I could continue to do that. That was so much fun. But yeah, probably besides baseball, soccer and cheer were my favorite. As much as I loved all the other things that I did.
That's awesome. Wow. Kept you certainly very busy for sure, it sounds like.
No idea.
So your mom was a Yankee fan growing up. I know who you work for now. So
Yeah.
aside from that, favorite team growing up yourself? Were you a Yankee fan, or were you?
I was Yankees and Pirates.
Where'd the
Yeah.
Pirates come from?
So my stepdad is a 4th generation from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And my dad is actually also a Steelers fan. So we already had the kind of Pittsburgh connection. But once my mom married my stepdad, I remember my first Christmas present for my grandmother was a box of Steelers gear. So actually, I think I went to more Pirates games than any other team. Like, my parents would actually bring us to Pirates games. But so yeah, I think by the time I was 11 or 12, I started rooting for the Pirates. But I grew up, yeah, diehard Yankees fan. Like, when I was 7, I think I could name the entire lineup before it was posted. That's how into it I was, despite
Right.
not actually watching it. I still have no idea how I did that.
Well, I would have to tell you, when we'd been watching that Yankee Mets World Series, I'm on the other side. Having grown up in New York, I like the Mets. But
I can understand. My mom was actually a Mets fan up until a year before I was born. So I joke that if she hadn't converted, I would have been a Mets fan.
there you go.
In our family, you go off of either what your parents root for or where you're born. We have a couple of family members that, they choose a different team for some personal reason, but for the most part, that's how we get our teams. So I could have easily been a Mets fan.
Yeah. Well, weirdly, my dad was a Yankee fan and I ended up a Mets fan. So I think it was just to be ornery, but it's
I
all
feel
good.
like every New York family has that.
Yeah. But we like one another, unlike the Chicago fans who don't like, the opposite side. New York fans are okay with the other side for the most part, because they're still New York.
Yeah, actually, I have noticed that. We'll root for the Mets as long as they're not playing the Yankees.
Right.
But
Yep, exactly. And so it's like,
New
that's
York.
all right. Yeah. So did you have a favorite player?
Derek Jeter. Yeah, the year I started watching baseball was the year he debuted.
Okay.
Literally grew up watching him play. That was I saved up my chore money. That was the first jersey that I bought.
Wow.
I was so proud of it. I still have it.
Cool.
I think that was when I was, 12.
Okay.
12 or 13. So like 18 years ago, and I still have that jersey.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
I was so excited when I finally had the money. And I am still one of these people, but like, I'm not a big t-shirt person, but I'm a huge jersey, and not, the $20-$30 jerseys you buy at Target. And like, I will save up my money to get an official, like, replica jersey or an official jersey, just something like that. So it took me a while to save up for that one.
Oh yeah, but that's pretty cool. And that you still have it. That's an awesome piece to have and make that connection to where you started. So that's pretty cool. So you went to college and you played softball, but you also played club baseball, which, particularly given the time that you were doing that, is obviously unusual. What was that? How did that happen? What was that like? How did that come about?
So both of them actually came, I was not expecting them. So like I said, I played softball in high school. My senior year of high school, I broke my thumb very first game of the season. Yeah, I was sliding into second. didn't know how to pop up slide properly, put my hands down like, younger athletes do to push themselves up. Thumb got caught in the dirt and snapped back. And we actually thought it was jammed. So I'm spending the rest of the game like pulling on my thumb, trying to unjam it. 3 games later, we finally go to the ER and find out it's broken. So I ended up being a pinch runner, and I convinced myself, oh, I'd only been playing the sport for a couple of years anyway. Now I lost my entire senior year. There's no way I can play in college. That's actually why I joined the cheer team.
Oh.
So my junior year, I was working for the baseball team. I went into the offices to talk to the baseball coach and ran into the softball coach. I did not know she was the softball coach though. She was new and she looked like a student. So we just started talking and she's like, yeah, we're looking for speed. Do you want to try out? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm not going to say no to try it out for a varsity softball. So I tried out for the team. Thank God for Facebook, my memory actually popped up. I made the team yesterday, like 11 years ago or whenever it was. But yeah, I made the team. And then the club baseball team actually started up 2 months after I joined the softball team.
Okay.
And I still wanted to play baseball. So I secretly joined the club baseball team. My coach knew I was cheering. She didn't know I was playing baseball too until a year after I graduated. So I just made it. Somehow the games never conflicted. I think because since it was a brand new club, we didn't play that first spring. We only played in the fall.
Okay.
And somehow they didn't conflict with my cheer schedule either.
Wow.
So I did manage to get to play. As far as practices went, especially, Dartmouth, we're all practicing indoors. We're all using the same facilities. So I would have softball practice first. Baseball would be right after, and I'd stay behind after softball, acting like I'm putting my stuff together as the baseball team's walking in. And then once all the softball players were gone and all the coaches were gone, then I take my baseball gear out and I'm like, okay, let's practice.
I wondered how you made, I was like, how did they not know you were playing?
Yeah, no, I was just really good at that. And
You played all 4 years? You played all 4 years?
No. So both softball and baseball were only my last 2 seasons. I didn't walk on until my junior year.
Gotcha. Okay. What was your position for baseball?
Well, it's same as I was in softball. Played outfield.
Okay.
Biggest difference was I actually played more on the club baseball team than I did on the softball team.
Huh.
Partly because as a walk-on, I was kind of getting back into it. I was just a pinch runner my junior year. Unfortunately, I got hurt my senior year, had to have hip surgery, like right when the season started. But for baseball, I was a starter, which was awesome. Like I started every game. I was in the outfield. I was hitting, I think I hit like second.
Wow. Yeah.
And because of softball, I actually became a slapper. So I was a switch hitter for baseball.
Wow. That would make you very valuable. That's pretty cool.
That's one of the reasons why they let me play.
Yeah.
The guys figured, well, she's a varsity softball player. She must be able to play some bat and ball sport.
Were you the only girl on the baseball team?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And how did that go?
I really didn't have any problems. I mean, once I showed that I could play, they were more than happy to have me on. Biggest thing we had to figure out was, we never played home games. We were always on the road. So having to change on the bus.
Right.
And actually, as a coach, this helps me as a coach now. I mean, now it's not as big of a deal with the Red Sox, but having been a D3 coach, you change on the bus before you get to the game.
Right.
And sports bra and spandex.
Sure.
Like you figure it out. And as far as the guys concerned, like they compromise too. And
that's great.
Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, no problems.
And it's one of those kind of funny things, thinking about having to change on a bus, even as a coach, that people don't think about, that these are some of but as you point out, there are always ways to make it work. And so that's pretty awesome. So we know the playing side. You went obviously through your college, and then you went on to get a JD and an MBA. Not the typical experience for what you're doing. So I'm curious how you see those having an impact or helping you in this journey, and how they play into what you're doing now and what you're continuing to hope to do.
So I will admit it took me a while to figure out how a law and a business degree actually help with coaching, particularly because when I was initially getting them, I was not thinking I was going to be a coach.
Oh.
I wanted to be a general manager. That's why I was doing the law and business degree. And I just kind of fell into coaching while I was at grad school, because eventually I joined the coaching staff as the director of baseball operations, added on more coaching roles about halfway through. And that's kind of how I became the graduate assistant coach. Now I tell people the business degree helps because, you know, working in business, you're always competing against somebody.
Mhm.
And the only way to get ahead is to think outside the box and do what hasn't been done.
Okay.
Because baseball, it's a very reactive sport. I mean, one team does something, it works for them, everybody else tries to copy. But what happens is the team that did it first, they have the leg up, they have the advantage. So it's the same thing, you know, just being in a team, being a coach, like you're trying to figure out, how can I get ahead of everybody else to make our guys better?
Right.
And then for law school, I joke, being a lawyer is just like being a coach. You have to get to know your client. You have to build that relationship, that trust. You have to know your information so well that you could break it down and give your client the information that they need to actually help them. And the majority of the time, your answer is going to be, it depends. So both degrees actually do help. Just, I mean, it doesn't really seem like it, but
Right.
it does. I mean, that critical thinking, and then again, the relationship building. I tell people all the time, when you go to law school, you're not taught the law. You're
Mhm.
taught how to read it and break down the law and break it down for people who don't understand it. That's why you go into a lawyer's office and you see law books behind them. It's not because we memorize the law. It's because we just know how to read it and how to simplify it. And it's just like being a coach. You have to know that information and simplify it for your players and give them the information that they actually need.
Mhm. That makes a great deal of sense. And when you break it down, there's a perfect match there. But I wondered, because I knew at one point you wanted to be a GM, so I've assumed that was the reason for
Yeah,
thinking
that was
about
the
it.
initial reason.
So GM still out there or as of right now, the coaching is
GM is my backup.
okay.
It's also my retirement plan. I mean,
Ah,
retirement from coaching. So
right.
when
Gotcha.
I'm 75, 80 years old and I can't throw BP anymore or hit proper fungo, then I might consider being in the front office.
Gotcha. So
It is also a good backup because, you know, sports, you never know what happens with jobs. I could
sure.
easily not be a coach next year, not find a coaching job. It's nice to know, though, that I could go back into the front office pretty easily.
Right. That may, and well, so you've really found your love out there on the field and out there with the players and getting that chance to have an impact on a day-to-day basis with them.
Yeah, I actually was thinking about it this off season that I knew I was in the right profession when this off season I've spent the majority of my free time guest coaching, like finding places to coach.
Coach.
I mean, we were just talking about earlier. I'm currently in Wisconsin, where I paid my way to come back up here to help coach at my last job. Yeah, mostly because I miss my guys, and I told them I'd come back, but also because I just love coaching.
That's awesome.
This is
Now,
all I do in my free time.
for coaching, and because coaches do have do different things. Some are pitching coaches, batting coaches, fielding coaches. Do you have a preference and a place where you like best?
Sort of. I mean, I'm most comfortable with outfield, base running, hitting, but that's mainly kind of like with most. I wouldn't call myself a completely new coach, but you know, a lot of coaches, they gravitate towards the position they played.
Right. That makes sense.
You know that best. So that's kind of the reason why I gravitated towards those three particularly. Not to mention, I mean, my last job, I was a hitting coordinator.
Right.
Most of the places I've gone to guest coach, they kind of throw me in the cages and just go, all right, work with our hitters, even though I'm not a hitting coach right now, but sure, I can do that. Because I've done like extensive research working with our hitters, of course, with the Red Sox. But I'm also very interested in basically all aspects. I mean, my long-term goal is to be a major league manager. And while I know I'm going to have my specialties and the side that I have more expertise in, I still want to be able to understand all the other areas. I don't want to have to just rely on my fellow coaches to tell me what's going on. I want to be able to actually have conversation with other coaches and understand, while still, you know, acknowledging that they are the experts in that area. It's
Right.
kind of like the reason why I wanted to get a law degree is because as a GM, I didn't want to have to rely on lawyers to understand contracts. They would still be the experts, but I'd at least understand what I was reading without having to ask them for every little piece.
Right.
So it's the same idea. So yeah, I gravitate towards a certain area, but I'm interested in all of it. I mean, I just bought a catcher's mitt and a first baseman's mitt over Christmas so I can start getting more practice in. And I am not a catching coach or infield coach.
Cool. Catching would definitely be the most different, I think, probably, right? Out of all of those.
I was actually a bullpen catcher in college.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Since I was a pinch runner and we, softball teams don't have a lot of extra bodies.
Mhm.
They threw me in the bullpen and they're just like, yeah, go catch the pitchers. And it got to the point where I was catching the pitchers outside of practice too. Like they text me and say, hey, can you come catch me for like half an hour? So I did learn how to catch, and I would actually catch some of our rehabbing guys at Case Western.
That's
So
awesome.
it's not completely new. It's just not a position I've played in a game.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. And so, wow. I'm just impressed listening, and it makes sense as you think about that. These would be the kinds of things you'd want to be able to do, and add each of these pieces to your resume as you go up the ladder in terms of that idea. So, got hired by the Red Sox, right? And obviously, that made national news, international news, being the first Black female professional coach. What did that feel like for you?
Overwhelming.
Uh-huh.
Because honestly, it's not something I was striving for.
Okay.
In fact, people actually would tell me when I was first getting started that I would be the first Black woman to do this. And my answer was usually, I really hope not, because that means we're waiting too long for it to happen.
Okay.
I did not want to be the first.
Uh-huh.
And I also, even when I accepted the job, I wasn't expecting it to be that big a deal.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I knew there was going to be some media, some publicity, and one of my friends was like, "No, this is going to blow up," and I didn't believe him at first. So it was overwhelming, especially because like my goal is I just want to coach. I just want to be the best coach I can be. I want to be the best coach for my players.
Mhm.
I had no intentions of trying to be a role model or do interviews or any of that stuff. So it's taken some getting used to, and honestly, I'm still getting used to it, especially because during the season, I tried not to do interviews so I can just focus on coaching. So kind of getting back into that mindset for the off season it's almost like I was in this baseball bubble.
Okay.
And then once the season was done, I had to actually face the rest of the world. And I was like, oh, great, this is still going on.
They're all still waiting to talk to you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool to see the number of people though who are supportive.
Okay.
I'd say that's probably the best part. Seeing all the comments of people who think it's great, wish we had more women in baseball. Like it's really encouraging. So I think that's probably the best part of having to deal with all of this.
That part is really great to hear. Okay. But I'm curious. So the goal obviously is to just be able to do what you do without all the hype in the media and things. But unfortunately, that's where we are. Have you been able to, without too much, to be able to say to people, no, baseball is what I got to focus on right now. And I'm sorry, that has to wait.
Oh yeah. Except for a couple of exceptions. I've already told like the Red Sox understand this, but I made a rule that I did not do interviews during the season.
Good.
Once spring training started, don't even bother asking. Like I said, there were a couple of exceptions, either like really close friends, alma mater. I'm willing to talk to them, but for the most part, I don't even know if I got interview requests during the season because nobody sent them to me, because my rule was during the season, I'm a coach. That is my focus. I don't want to have to worry about anything else. I just want our players to get better. Once the season's done, all right, fine. I'll do whatever I need to do. And it's going to be the same thing for next year, like, except for maybe a couple of exceptions. Once the season starts, I'm a coach. That's my job. My job is not to be in the media. If anything, the coach is supposed to be in the background.
Mhm.
Our job is not to be in the forefront. Our job is to push our players to the forefront. And it's the same thing for me. Like that's not what I was hired for. That's not what I signed up for. I signed up to be a coach.
Well, that's awesome that you get that support, because I don't know that that has always been the case in other places, clearly, because you can see, but you're right. Usually the only time a coach ends up in the news is if they've done something wrong.
Yeah, right.
And people don't really know who they are. And so, but that's great that there is that kind of support for you to be able to just do what it is that you want. And that's the way it should be, right? Because that, and eventually we'll get there where that
Eventually.
so I was curious. So between the time that you started and were hired by the Red Sox for this year, we went from having almost no female coach, right? And there are 12 now.
Is there 12?
Yeah.
Was another one hired?
Yeah.
Who was the 12th?
Wasn't that Katie? Didn't Katie make the 12th?
No, Katie was included in the 11.
Okay, so I thought she was the 12th. Okay, so there's 11.
Okay. I was like,
For
wait,
some
did
reason
I
I
miss
thought
one?
I must have goofed. I thought she was the 12th, but okay.
I've been keeping a list. That's why I
Yeah,
was
me
like,
too. That's
who was
why
it? I need to add them.
I must have just miscounted. I was thinking she was 12, but and so what's your reaction to that? To the fact that we went from and you refer, and now we've got 11 in a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, first reaction is it's about time.
Yeah.
Second reaction is I'm not surprised at all, because that's generally how it goes when there's something new.
Mhm.
The first happens, and then other people realize, oh, okay, this actually works. And then everybody else jumps on board. It's just like what I said, baseball is a reactive sport. Just we had to wait for for one team to do it. And then other teams realize, oh, okay, let's think outside the box. Women can actually do this job. Like we're eliminating 50% of the population from a potential position. So
Right.
I would not be surprised if this number booms next year as well. Because I think it's also, I mean, women seeing this now, they're also realizing, oh, we can do this. We will be accepted. We should apply for these jobs too. So now you're going to have more women applying, more qualified women who are showing that they could do it, what men do.
Right.
And more teams are going to be able to consider them too.
That was what I was going to ask. It's that sort of, yes, the teams have to see it, but for women as well to be able to say, oh, look, I could actually do that. There's somebody doing it, right?
Yeah.
If you see it, you can be it kind of idea. Yeah. Which is, so the Red Sox, once again, are the first to now have 2 women with you and Katie, which is kind of interesting. Because the Red Sox historically have not always been the team that has sort of led the way in things. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see that. Now, will you and Katie be in entirely different places and areas and not have much contact with one another?
So we'll be together for spring training, just like with all the other coaches, but she'll be at AA in Portland and I'll still be in Florida.
Okay.
So, I mean, even our positions are technically different.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, but we've been in touch for about a year now.
Okay.
So I actually knew her while she was with the Reds. So we've been talking back and forth since before she got the job, since she got the job, trying to do my part of kind of keeping an eye on her, making sure everything's going okay. But
you're kind of this has to maybe be, I don't know, a little interesting as well, that you have the most experience of any of these. And so the possibility that you've had mentors and now you get that opportunity to do that for others.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it is. And honestly, I love it. Like that's kind of the same reason why I love to coach. I mean, as much, yes, I love baseball, but the best part for me is, helping players get to where they want to be on and off the field. And I try to, emphasize to her, like my guys, once I'm your coach, I'm always your coach. Doesn't matter if you graduate, doesn't matter if I leave. If you need something like 10 years, 20 years down the road, you have my number. I make sure to Facebook friend them so I can keep tabs on what they're doing. And I mean, I try to do the same thing for, women students who are trying to get into the game. I try to keep, communication open. If anybody's ever interested in like advice, I try to be as available as possible. I mean, obviously my schedule gets crazy, so it's hard, but I mean, there's been several actually quite a handful of students that I've mentored trying to get into the game, and a good portion of them have gotten him at some point. I mean, I got 2 former players and then another Dartmouth grad who are all currently working for a professional baseball team as I don't know, I'm trying to think. Yeah, so we got 3 just right there, and then a couple other people that I've been talking with. One actually, I think we just hired as well for another position. So
That's awesome.
no, I love being able to, try to smooth the way for other people and make it as easy as possible, because it's not easy. It's hard enough without somebody else's help.
Right, for sure. And that was what I was going to ask. Where have you seen some of your former players, or so any of them on the playing side, or are they mostly on the operation side?
Operations. So I've got 2 who are in the front office, 1 who is a coach.
Cool.
Trying to think if there anything is most of the guys that I've coached, at least at the D3 level, actually aren't interested in working in baseball. Which is actually really cool because I still get to brag about them. Like I've got one guy who designs tanks for the military, another one who went into NASA. I got a couple of doctors, a couple of lawyers. I mean, it's really cool. A lot of engineers in Case Western.
Sure.
I used to joke those guys are smarter than me. Like there are times where I'm listening to their conversations on the field and they're making me feel stupid. So at least for like the guys who I know who are interested in sports, obviously they reach out to me and ask. But right now, yeah, I've got the 2 former players, one, like I said, one Dartmouth grad. I think those are the only ones off the top of my head. Yeah, pretty sure those are the only ones. I'm gonna have to take a look. There's been, I add on to like 60 guys every year, so trying to keep track of all of them.
That's impressive that you can even just roll through that, because that's pretty cool. And in that respect, it's a lot. It's like teaching. You see them go on, and you're like, oh, that's so cool.
Oh yeah.
They're doing that kind of thing. So you get the opportunity now, certainly, to be that person for others and to mentor. So who have been those people for you? Who have been the big mentors or inspirations on your journey to this point?
Well, biggest ones were my parents. Honestly, the biggest inspirations. I mean, one, like I said, my mom introduced me to the game, but she also went to law school my senior year of high school.
Wow.
So, I mean, she had her kids, she decided to go to law school. And what's so funny is like, she actually went to law school, not because she wanted to be a lawyer. It's because she's always wanted to go to law school.
Wow.
So she just decided, she's like, I'm going to go to law school. So
That's
seeing
cool.
her do that and being able to balance like having a family. I mean, that first year of law school is hard, but she made sure like she had her classes in the morning. She was always up to see us go to school. She was always back in time for dinner. I actually went to a couple of classes with her during my break, so I kind of already had that, like what law school was like. But then like my stepmom is also a urologist, so seeing what she goes through,
Right.
still raising her kids and being there for us. And then my dad and stepdad are like the biggest support system I've ever had. I mean, so when I moved to Florida for this job last year, that was my 9th move in 9 years. Wow. And 8 of those moves my parents paid for. Okay. So like there were times where I nearly gave up. I mean, I was a volunteer coach at the University of Dallas. During that time, I was working 7 part-time jobs to pay for my apartment. And I nearly burned out because I was getting like 2 hours of sleep a day, barely had time to eat. And these weren't like, sit down jobs either. Like I was doing UPS, Target, Dollar Tree, Uber Eats, So I was all over the place. And I remember calling my dad, like crying, because like, I don't think I could do this anymore. And my dad pushed me to continue. I mean, he could have easily been like, yeah, okay, yeah, you have your law degree. Why not just take the bar and, practice law? Right. But he knew that's not what I wanted to do. So my parents raised us, follow your passion, follow your dream. if it's not already a job, make it a job. Like figure out a way how to make money from your passion.
Mhm.
And don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the title. Just do what you love. Like figure out what wakes you up in the morning. So that's, I mean, they were definitely my biggest mentors, biggest inspiration. As far as strictly baseball though, Tyrone Brooks, I think everybody in baseball knows him.
Yeah.
he is still one of my biggest mentors, to the point that when I decided I wanted to pursue coaching full time and not be in a front office, I went to his office crying because I felt like I was disappointing him,
Oh, wow.
because he had done so much to try to get me into the front office. And now I had to tell him, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And I just felt terrible. Obviously, I mean, he was really supportive about it too. You know, once I got over that, he's like, all right, well, let me know what I can do to help. And then I've just had so many coaches along the way that I've worked with who've been, you know, just kind of an ear.
Mhm.
And just, I mean, just being there for me. I mean, because yeah, there are enough people who are against women in baseball. When you find the ones who are truly supportive, like you want to stick with them. So, I mean, I'll say like the Reds coaches have been, sorry, I think that was me.
I was like,
Yeah, somebody's texting me. I got a coaches meeting after this. But yeah, I got to give credit to the Reds coaches, because I mean, they got me on the field while I was a baseball operations trainee. They made sure to, you know, ask me questions, get me involved, make sure I was comfortable. And nearly 3 years later, I'm still texting them every couple of months. Like if I have a question, if I need anything, like they're there. And it's the same like all the other coaches I've worked for at the college level. And that's the reason why I love coming back too. It's not, I mean, the players, yeah, but even after the guys I've worked with graduate, I still love coming back because I love also being with the coaching staff. So there's been a lot of people along my journey that have been really helpful.
That's really awesome to hear, because I don't know sometimes if that's always the case. And so, but I think that's encouraging moving forward, that seems like that would suggest that there is more recognition that this isn't an anomaly anymore.
Yeah, I'd say like I said, there are definitely people who are against women in baseball. It's just finding the ones who aren't and finding the ones who truly want to do something. Because there are also people who will say they're for women in baseball, but they won't actually do anything to help you. So finding the ones who will truly actually do something, those are the ones like I definitely want to keep in touch with, not just for me, but for helping other women.
Right.
And that's why like I always give credit to the Reds coaches, because they didn't have to get me on the field.
Right.
They could have just been like, oh, you know, that's an intern writing notes in the you know, in the stands. Great. But no, they got me on the field. They made sure to ask me questions. They gave me projects to work on. Like they stay in touch. So like that matters. Like I know, you know, a couple of Reds coaches have vouched for me for jobs. So it makes a difference.
That's very cool. That's really cool. So in looking at what you've done so far to where you are obviously today, besides the fact of getting hired by the Red Sox and things like that, in your baseball life, what would you say have been some of your biggest highlights, things that just you look back on and think, wow, that was really cool?
I think there are two for sure. One, again, going back to the Reds, was the day they gave me my jersey. And it was initially, I thought it was going to be a joke. Not in a bad way, but like I had been talking to our manager, David Bell, and I was kind of messing around because I'd been catching in for the team for a while. I was wearing, you know, Red Sox shirt Red shirt and shorts. And I was like, yeah, now all I need to do is actually be in jersey and I'll be part of the coaching staff. And he just looks at me and is like, oh yeah, we can get you a jersey. And I thought he was joking until my second to last day. There's my jersey hanging up in the club in the video room. And I was like, I can't believe you actually got me a jersey.
That's awesome.
And like that was amazing to me because like there's, like I said, I'm a jersey person. There's just something so special about putting the jersey on. Like anybody can put a t-shirt on with the team name. When you have the official jersey, then you actually feel like you're part of the team. It's like you've earned that jersey. So getting that from the Reds was awesome. And then I'd say the second was actually the 2021 season for Carroll University, my last job.
Mhm.
So yeah, we did. I mean, I'm so proud of our guys with the Red Sox. We finished second in our division.
Yeah.
Tough season by the end of the season, but I think I was incredibly proud for Carroll just because they were predicted to finish last in the conference. They ended up finishing 4th out of 9.
Wow.
They finished 3rd in the conference tournament. And it's the first time they had a non-losing season, or it's like their second non-losing season in 10 years or something like that. But not only that, they set 5 different hitting records, was 20th in the nation for home runs. And like I'll admit part of it as a coach, like being the hitting coordinator, it's kind of like, yeah, I helped with that. But also just seeing how they did, because I mean, we didn't start off very well in 2020. Hadn't had the best years in the past either. Most of the guys were coming back, and just seeing them battle, like any chance I got, I was at home watching the games online. I was texting the guys after the games, like guys were texting me, letting me know how they did, sending me their video. So getting to see that progress from just like a year, it was amazing.
That's pretty
So
cool.
just, yeah, as a coach, like that was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you do it for, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and especially, I mean, anytime that's cool, but over the last couple of years, the additional challenges of the world that they're dealing with make it even more impressive than any of them were doing anything, right?
Yeah.
So wow, those are both really cool highlights, I have to say. That's pretty cool. So obviously, as you have navigated to get where you are, and I know this is another common question, but I think it's an important one. And what advice do you have for others who want to do what you're doing?
Well, one, ignore the haters, ignore the critics. I think there are 2 ways you can go about it. Is when you get negative comments, is completely just put it out of your mind, because the ones who are going to make the negative comments are usually the ones who have no idea about your background, no idea what you're doing, no idea what you're capable of, and probably don't even work in the sport. So what would they know anyway?
True.
And unless it's like the person actually deciding if you're going to be hired or have a job, they don't have an impact on your job anyway. So why bother? Or, and I do this with some comments, you can use it as fuel. So I've seen comments where I think one of the ones that made me laugh, and I see this quite often, is, especially when a woman's hired as a hitting coach. Oh, well, what do they know about facing a fastball?
Right.
But first of all, I want to be like, okay, once the ball's released, it's softball comes in the same way. Like you're still seeing the equivalent of a 90-mile-per-hour fastball coming by you. So that doesn't change anything. But I actually remember seeing that comment, and my first reaction wasn't to get annoyed. It was, I wonder if the Red Sox will let me stand in a bullpen. And I actually remember talking to my agent about it. She goes, no, don't do it. I'm like, I really just want to stand in. I mean, like, I know it's similar for softball, but I kind of do want to just stand in a bullpen now and see what it's like. So like,
have you done that yet?
No. Actually, I'm going to do it now while I'm here at Carroll, because they can't stop me. It probably won't be 90 miles per hour, but
still.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it against a pitching machine. I've never done it against an actual pitcher.
Right.
So besides soft, oh no, that's not true. Obviously playing club baseball, but again, speed's not the same.
Right.
So I might do that while I'm here, because it's been a while. But that's what I mean. Like, use that as fuel. Use that as, ways to encourage yourself to get better. And then they can't really say anything anymore. Like, once you've done what they said you couldn't do or didn't do, then it doesn't really matter anymore. And I'd also say, ask the question, why not? So if you get a no for a job, all right, why not? What can I do better? How can I get to the point where you can't say no? Or if somebody says you can't do something, well, why not? Why can't I do it? One of my favorite stories is I was a private instructor as well while I was here up in Wisconsin. And I was throwing plyo balls to like 11 or 12-year-old. I will say this, any coaches who are throwing plyo balls, get out of the way. I got hit smack dab in the forehead by a 12-year-old with a plyo ball. Just because they're slow doesn't mean they don't hurt. But I was throwing overhand, and one just dove like a curveball. And one of our instructors next in the cage next to me goes, "Did you just throw a curveball with the plyo?" And I went, "No, I was just throwing overhand." And he goes, I guess that's true. I mean, it doesn't have any seam, so you won't be able to throw a curveball." And I just look at him and go, "Okay, now I kind of want to try to see if I could throw a curveball with the plyo." And he just starts laughing and goes, "I should not have said that." Like, I should have known better. Now you're going to try to do it. Because yeah, why not? For me, like, nothing is impossible until it's been completely proven. Until something's been proven that you like physically, literally can't do it. So like, I don't know, just trying to keep water in your hand or something like that. Like something that people have tried and actually can't do it.
Right.
Then who says it's impossible? At least try.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to fail. Because you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes.
That is definitely, I love that. That's definitely true. And turning it on its head to the simple idea of, well, why not?
That's how I live my life is, why not? It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, and I can't wait to hear about your experience standing in against it.
Oh yeah, that's definitely gonna be fun. I can't wait.
Yeah. Clearly you love a challenge.
Well, that's the fun in life. When things get too easy, it gets boring. So I love a challenge. I mean, and the best part isn't just the challenge, it's when you overcome it. It's like for me, I don't have the strongest arm. I'm not the strongest BP thrower. And I know that. So rather than trying to build up the muscle, I mean, I'm 5 foot, there's only so much I can do. Instead of trying to compete with the other coaches in velo, I learned how to throw different pitches from BP distance. I can throw 8 different pitches in BP.
Wow.
Not a lot of coaches can say that. So I can actually give them a game-like experience by throwing mixed pitches. That's how that's how you overcome problems. And that's also how you become better and you provide value to the team.
Sure.
Like, yeah, if one of my guys wants to see a curveball and we're not going to have our pitchers do it, I know I can jump in and throw 2 different types of curveballs depending on what he wants to see.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I like your comment about, taking what could be a disadvantage, which is your height and your size, and saying, okay, how do I turn it into something that can be a positive? Which is pretty cool. So given that you like a challenge and that's something that motivates you, what's the next big challenge out there on your horizons?
Well, I got to make it to minor league manager now.
Okay.
So like my goal for this season is, what else do I need to do to become better?
Okay.
And I know there's a lot I need to do to become better. That's, again, the joy of it. It's like I get to continue to learn and get better. I mean, I took over outfield and base running. I was working with the hitters. I coached first base. I helped our manager with lineup, practice planning, game reports last year. Well, now I still got pitching. I still have catching. I still have infield. I got to coach third. I got to work on giving signs. I got to work more on strategy and still get better at all the stuff that I did last year. So that's the challenge for me, is how am I going to get better? Not only am I going to build on what I did last year, but how am I going to improve in the areas that I already know that I'm weak in? So there's, like I said, there's always a challenge, and that's the fun of it.
Oh yeah.
Problem solving.
So there's your JD and all of that coming into play again too.
Oh, I've been solving logic problems since I was like 6. I was that kid who went into like CVS and went straight for the logic problem book and filled it out. My dad used to tease me, but that's why I did so well in the LSAT. Like, I actually enjoyed taking the LSAT.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. This is what I mean, because I love logic problems. I love problem solving, like the critical thinking forcing yourself to think outside the box.
That,
That's what's fun.
well, then you're in the perfect place for all the things that you love to do. And that's really, it's really exciting. And it's been fun to watch how your career has progressed so far, and be very excited to see when you become that minor league manager.
I guess that would be the other advice I would give. Say when, not if.
Yep.
People will say that to me, oh, if you make it, no. When I
When.
make it, not if. It's
Yep.
just, it's a matter of when.
Yep. So we're gonna see you when you're a minor league manager, and then we're gonna see you when you're a major league manager.
I'll be a Fenway eventually.
There you go, right out there underneath that big green monster. So, well, this has been an awesome conversation, and I recognize you've got other places to be, but I did want to ask if there's anything that you wanted to say anything about that we haven't talked about before we kind of wind things down.
I guess it'd be one other piece of advice I'd give, and this isn't just for, trying to get into sports, but try to also be well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so growing up, yeah, we're a very big sports family, but I also did choir. I did musical theater. I play piano. I'm learning guitar. I'm working on Spanish, but also learning Japanese and Chinese. And not even because of baseball. I actually started learning Japanese because I am a huge anime fan.
Okay.
Like I am a self-proclaimed nerdy geek. I'm not a nerd, but I'm a nerdy geek.
Gotcha.
Like actually, I can even tilt the screen now. I'm wearing a Slytherin shirt.
You are.
Like Slytherin headband, like Harry Potter, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Stargate, Star Trek, like all of that. Like
That's awesome.
It's try to be more than just your job.
Mm-hmm.
I love baseball. Obviously, I mean, this is what I try to do in my free time is, try to be in baseball, but you should still have more outside of that, even if it's not time consuming, but just having something to get away. Because eventually you're going to get to the point where you're like, okay, I need a little bit of a break. And athletes go through this when they finish playing their sport. Like that's their identity. Create an identity outside of just what you do.
That's really sound advice for everybody.
Like it helps with the mental health. It helps with the work-life balance. I have none, but that's because I do so many other things that I love to write for fun. Like I write fantasy novels on the side. So like,
wow.
Yeah, no, I have like a lot of little random things that people never expect from me.
Right. And the only question they have to ask you is, how do you find the time?
Like I said, I have no social life. I don't go out. My fellow coaches, other colleagues are trying to work on that this season. They've already told me we're doing some team bonding stuff. So expect to actually do stuff on your off day. Otherwise, my dad teases me. I get like 30 steps on my off day. And he's like, how do you only get 30? When like normal day, I'll get like 11,000. I'm like, bathroom and back.
Right.
I come home on Saturday. I grab all the food I need for the weekend, put it next to my bed, and then bathroom and back. And that's literally all I do. But yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
Explore, figure out other things that you like to do. Don't feel like you have to be pigeonholed into one area just because that's what you work or that's what you do. Right. I mean, find multiple loves and enjoy it.
That's awesome advice. That's a great message to end on as far as our conversation. And I know, Kate, you said there was, and I don't know if we covered the question that Missy asked or not, but
a little bit. But yeah, so we do have one question that came into us in our couple of weeks of leading up to this. So Missy Coombs, who I would normally who I would normally say posted on Twitter, but Missy Coombs of the Silver Bullets.
Wants to know, I met her in November.
Yeah. We sat down with her last May, I believe. That was a really cool interaction. I think Kat hosted. But yeah, so she asked, we've covered most of this, but she wants to know when you fell in love with baseball, and what or who inspires you. So essentially, what's your why?
My players are my why. I mean, the challenge of being a coach, I love that part, but getting to see my guys progress, get better at this level, getting to see them get called up. Anytime I could see on their face when something finally clicks and it works for them, like I've gotten to see guys hit their first home run after working with them. And not just with the Red Sox, like at the college level too, after working with them for like a year and a half, getting to see that first home run. And then people have asked, like, what's, as a coach, what was your best experience or like your best moment? And the answer people expect it's always like, that home run or, this moment on the field. For me, it's when guys start talking to me and it's not about baseball. Because that's when I feel like I've truly made that connection that we need.
Yeah.
When they can come to me and start talking about anything else. Like that's when I feel like, okay, I've made it as a coach, because this means like I will have that relationship even after baseball. Our relationship isn't defined by just baseball. Like I've got we had a player last year who, when he found out I had a law degree, would come into my cage every morning and ask me some random philosophical question because he knew I was going to argue, couldn't help it. Something like, do you think we have free will? And I would just look at him like, that's not even fair, because he knows I'm just going to go on for 15 minutes and he's not even going to argue back. He's just going to let me talk because he's just looking at me smirking. But this was also the player that, like, every morning I make sure to ask our guys, how are you doing? It was always a fist bump, high five. Like, we are not allowed to start until you tell me how you're doing. And of course they usually ask back, oh yeah, I'm great. How are you doing? He was the first one to figure out when I was lying, if I was having a bad day. And I didn't even realize I had to tell. He had to tell me what it was. So like when you have those kind of relationships, like that's my why. I'm still like I said, I'm still in touch with a lot of the players that I've had, getting to see how they're doing. I mean, some from Case Western, their parents. I mean, that's been awesome. But no, that's why I love doing what I do. It's because of them. Like, you're not a coach without your players.
Right. For sure. That's awesome. I love that. That's really cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and tell us all about your journey so far. And we're excited to see where it takes you.
Ah, thank you. Thanks for having me on. This is fun.
Thank you. Are you interested in keeping up with Bianca? Follow her on social media at Bianca E. Smith 12 on Twitter and Instagram. As mentioned in the episode, Bianca does not take interviews in season, so please respect her privacy during. You can keep up with the IWBC at IWBC4Me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you're interested in becoming a member or are interested in making a donation to support our continued work, please visit our website at internationalwomen'sbaseballcenter.org. If you liked our episode and are curious about our other digital content, don't forget to like and subscribe to IWBC Archive on YouTube. Thank you again for joining us for Step Up to the Sport, and thank you again to Leslie and Bianca for this conversation. Keep an eye out for new and upcoming content, and don't forget to step up to the sport.